He's got 8.6 million followers on
Yeah, no, like
Instagram.
the Oprah Winfrey of Brazil, but he preps people. So I don't know if he
But
thinks
why does he have so many followers, Chris? That's the question.
because he's a good interviewer, probably.
Cris Aceto detonou Renato Cariani em podcast com David Palumba após o Cariani comentar que o Ramon Dino deveria trocar de coach.
Chris, you had a little run-in. Explain what's going on with the whole Brazilian press that you're in.
Oh no, you can put up. I sent you the picture. So someone sent it to me, and you can put it up. It's what's the guy's name?
Renato. Renato Cariani.
You got
I'll
you got
pull him up. I'll pull his Instagram up. He's got a very popular. Here he is. He's got 8.6 million followers on
yeah, no, like
Instagram.
the Oprah Winfrey of Brazil, but he's probably but he preps people. And so here he is, the headline is like he's talking, I don't agree with Chris's methods. And of course, prior to this, he's the opposite, saying, Chris is the best, Chris is the best. And I just want to remind him that, he's a small prep, he preps people. So I don't know if he
But
thinks
why does he have so many followers, Chris? That's the question.
because he's a good interviewer, probably. But
Okay. So he's
know,
popular in Brazil, in
yeah,
other words. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
he should remind his listeners in Brazil only that every show Rafael Brandao ever competed in, he was in great shape.
Right.
He's
So what did he say about you? What did he say about
well,
you?
after Ramon gets fourth, he wants to like take the soft, he wants to shit on me, but in a soft way. And I'm sure the soft way is simply because, if Ramon comes back and dominates shows, then he looks like an idiot. So, he's hedging his bets. It's what it's called. So he can remind his listeners during the show that, like I said, Rafael Brandao was in shape at every single show that I prepped him for. Eduardo Correa's Brazilian. He's kind of been in shape for every single show. I prepped Ricardo Correa, who lives in Brazil. Rude boy. He was peeled when I helped him. Ramon, of course. Marcelo Alfonsi just turned pro in the 212, and he beat Fabricio Moreira, which is one of the best 212 bodybuilders in Brazil. He just got his pro card in the Olympia, and
Right.
he's Fabricio. William Martins is Brazilian. He got his pro card with me. He was placing second, third, fourth, and fifth in very competitive pro shows and beaten Olympians and peeled out of his mind when I was coaching him. He's Brazilian. Good Vito is not Brazilian, but he lives there.
Right.
Uh, Alan Bonadaman, great professional bodybuilder, needs more size, but he's always peeled, well coached. And Matt Grego, who just 1 year ago from the New York Pro, he was at the New York Pro and he lost to what's the guy's name? Junior Jaworski, who's a really good uh, Olympian. And Matt got, sixth at that show, and I think Junior was second. And 1 year later, Matt beats the Brazilian at the New York Pro, Eric Wildeberger, and comes to this show 20 pounds bigger than last year's Olympia. That's not an exaggeration, 20 pounds. And he beats, amazingly, incredible two classic competitors from Brazil, including Gabriel Zaccanelli, Gabriel.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's really good. And Fabio Jr., who's a really good classic guy. And I also helped, I used to coach Fernando Maradona, who's really well known in Brazil. So, but, he wants to spout off to his 8 million, people who listen to him. Well, I've always questioned those methods. Maybe you don't even know, maybe the methods are so outside the box and you're thinking inside the box that sure you would question them. But I just gave my Brazilian resume to you. So you can, shove that down, wherever he wants to shove it. My rant. My rant. So all the Brazilians can pick it up tomorrow and he can go on his little show with 8 million people and say how he's going to prep Ramon for the next show.
Well, I don't think Ramon looked bad for the show. I don't know why.
Maybe he can call Raphael because he struggled the last two shows with his condition.
I thought that Ramon looked good. I think that Mike Summerfield was great. I think he was a shocker in that classic physique lineup. I don't think, Bumstead was typical Bumstead. Urs, raised his game up a little bit. I thought his tan was pretty bad. But I thought that the top four were stellar. I mean, I don't think you can really criticize them. I mean, what would, if as Ramon's coach, what would you like to have seen better on Ramon at this show?
I would have seen the prejudging start Dave 30 minutes before or be 3 hours later, because I was backstage with I went backstage. I saw Matt Grego there. I had like 4 people in the classic. What's the guy's name? Renato, whatever the guy with the 8 million followers. I had 4.
Yeah, Renato.
4 of the questionable methods. 4 times the questionable methods work to get guys wins to get into that show. I went over and I saw Ramon backstage, and Freddie, who promotes the Texas Pro. The quote is, "I've never seen condition like that."
Right.
And I looked and I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna go sit down." And then he came out, of course, and he was like a YouTube video of the sweating bodybuilder. He started to sweat like crazy. His tan was rubbing, falling right off him.
Yeah.
You couldn't see what he looked like at all, really. And Breon, the classic guys are the best. They support. I'm not saying the open guys wouldn't do it too, but Breon, like, telling them, you got to wipe your sweat off while he's competing against them.
Right.
And so, prejudging ends, and he's probably in 4th, maybe even 5th. I'd say 4th. And then I went to the hotel after the prejudge, and somebody pretty prominent in the sport came to the room to talk to Ramon, and he wanted to see what Ramon looked like. This was probably within 2.5 hours after the show, and he looked the exact same as when I had left him prior to going on the stage. He was peeled, and I know the person looking at him wanted to pick him apart and say, "See, you know what the problem is," and he just hit all the poses, and the guy didn't say one word in terms of being spot on.
Yeah.
Well, I think that
the answer to that. That's a long-winded answer to the prejudging having started 30 minutes when I left, prior to when I left him, or whatever it was, 2.5, 3 hours later when the guy came to the room. They're like, not read him the riot act, but probably tell him, "Let me see what you look like, and this is where you got to tighten up, or this is what you got to do, or this is what you should do, or think about this." He came to give advice, which was, good of him. But he couldn't really give any advice when it came to anything, with the exception of how to hit the back double better.
Well, I think my personal view is I think that his conditioning was phenomenal. I think that when I saw Mike Summerfeld in second place, I almost couldn't believe that he made weight, because this guy looks like a bodybuilder. He's so big. I mean, he's got great proportion. His conditioning was awesome. I don't know how he made the weight class, to be honest with you, which I think is what's Ramon's problem is, if I'm not wrong, is every time he has to suck down to make that weight, he's losing some of that fullness that he probably would benefit from greatly on that stage. And sometimes, especially in Vegas, it's got to be very hard to get guys rehydrated after they make weight, because, like, my voice is, all the moisture just gets completely sucked out of you there. It was so hot and it was so dry there that you just dehydrated standing around almost, Were you having problems keeping them full because of that, Chris?
I think it's always, a little challenging to keep them full, because, the true answer to that is at 108, that's 12 pounds over.
Right.
He's ready, and his condition at 108 probably beats 99 out of 100 people in the top 10 at the Olympia. So his
Right.
condition is, you would see it, Dave, and you would definitely say your condition is better at 109 because of
Right.
it might not be as intricate as having to make the weight at 103, but at 109 you're blasting full,
Yeah. Yeah.
just pushing against the skin. So even if you're holding a little bit of water when you flex it, you don't really even care about that little bit of water. So
Right. Right.
moving down is always, it's been a challenge every single show. And the irony is, well, they did move the weight cap up, but every single show is a last, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 day
Yeah.
struggle of how do you get there? Because some years it's been impossible to get there. You know what I mean? It's you're a day out and you're still 2 pounds over, and there's nothing else to do other than don't breathe. So the answer
I
is
think
yeah,
I
it's a
right.
challenge.
I think what we're starting to see, and maybe John, you can comment on this, is that classic bodybuilding or classic physique, whatever you want to call it, whatever it's called, is more about proportion than it is about how much you weigh. And I think now that they're realizing that the judges can really influence who wins and looks good in this division by how they judge the physiques. So
Mhm.
even if they took away the weight cap, I think the physiques wouldn't get out of hand as long as the judges rewarded the guys who had the classic look, like a Ramon, like a Urs, like a Bumstead, um, because the only way it gets out of hand is because the judges start rewarding bigger and harder, bigger and harder, bigger and harder, and then the weights get bigger, and and then you lose the proportion.
I've always said
So
that
yeah,
you know classic physique when you see it. So why have the cap or the height or any of it? But
right,
the flip side is because I would like to see just people be their best. If they have a
right,
classic physique
yeah,
and you're 235 and you don't fit the parameters for the height, but boy, do you look like you have classic written all over you with every single pose. I'd like to see that guy in the Olympia, but the flip side to that is, as we know, if you do raise the weight and not at the Olympia level, I don't think judging, but winning pro shows to get there,
Yeah.
you you know you go to the New England or Maine or Ontario pro qualifier bodybuilding show and they say who won.
Não esqueça de deixar o seu like e se inscrever no canal para não perder nenhum de nossos novos vídeos e também sinta-se à vontade para deixar seu comentário aqui embaixo.